Ajax fan talking about a PSV player. This should be interesting. In today's video, we're going to talk about a big talent. It's a guy that's playing really good in the Netherlands right now. He was already linked with a big move to England last summer. And right now, this is the only guy in Europe that has similar statistics to Erling Haaland. And yeah, I'm definitely in favor of comparing the Eredivisie with the Premier League. Because that, of course, makes a lot of sense. Premier League, Eredivisie, same thing, right? Well, I will voice my frustration about this a little bit later in this video. But by now, you guys know that I'm talking about Cody Gakpo. And for some time, the hype about this guy has been real. People are really interested in this guy, and especially after PSV won 2-0 against Arsenal, people started to talk about Gakpo again and his possible move to the Premier League. And sure, he was great in that game, but when PSV played in London against Arsenal, this guy honestly was nowhere to be found. So in this video, I want to talk about Cody Gakpo, his player profile, how he's doing this season, if he will actually fit in the Premier League, and which club he should actually go to. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. I think it's best to start off with a player profile so that you guys understand what type of player Cody Gakpo is. As you know, Cody Gakpo is a winger, but he's not your typical kind of winger. He's way taller than the actual winger at 6'2". Usually players of that size normally are number 9s, but that's not necessarily what Cody Gakpo does. Because even though his physique, he still is very agile, very quick, and he tends to take on a man when dribbling as well. He has a very good shot, which he's finally utilizing this season. And in terms of his shots, you can kind of compare him a little bit with Anthony, more on that later of course, because he tends to cut inside and shoot for the far post. His stats for PSV are 55 goals in 156 games, which to be fair isn't really that impressive actually, especially when you think of the fact that his highest goal scoring season in the Eredivisie was only a season with 12 goals. And if you compare it to the likes of Memphis Depay, who also used to play for PSV and regularly scored 20-25 plus goals in the league, Gakpo's tally is somewhat of a disappointment so far. But I'm saying so far because this season he looks set to break his personal best, because he's already scored 9 goals in 11 Eredivisie games so far this season. So something crazy would happen for him not to break that record. Or a January transfer, but again, more on that later. But the stats that I just talked about brings us to our next point, because we have to talk about the current season that Cody Gakpo is having in the Netherlands, in Europe. Because like I said in the intro, right now he's competing with one of the best goal scorers in the entire world. So let me tell you his stats across all competitions this season, and I have to say, it is pretty impressive. Like I said, he scored 9 goals in 11 Premier League games, but that's not all, because he also managed to get 9 assists in the Eredivisie. In 5 Europa League games, he also scored 3 times and gave 2 assists. So in all competition, he scored 13 goals, gave 14 assists in just 21 games. So that means that he's already on 27 goal contributions in 21 games, and we're still in October. Sure, great numbers, but people just always take it too far. Because for some reason, people think it's normal to compare one of the best strikers who's playing in one of the best competitions in the entire world to a guy that's playing in the Eredivisie and in the Europa League against the likes of Zurich and Bodo Glimt. Because Erling Haaland right now has 25 goal contributions in 16 games, and I have to say, it's against the likes of Borussia Dortmund, Sevilla, Manchester United, Liverpool, you know, all the good clubs. In my humble opinion, tougher opponents than Cody Gakpo is facing in the Eredivisie and Europa League. And I mean, where does the comparison even come from? The two are not even playing in a similar position. Erling Haaland is a goal machine who has way more goals than assists, and Cody Gakpo has a little bit of both, completely not on the same level. So, I mean, I don't agree with this whatsoever. I personally rather compare him to another player. A player who last year played in the same competition as him, a winger as well, but he plays on the other side. And this summer he made a transfer of almost 100 million euros to Manchester United, the club that almost signed Cody Gakpo last summer as well, and is reportedly still interested in the player. And like I said, since both players played in the same competition in the Eredivisie last season, I feel like the comparison would be more accurate between those two. So let's move on to the fun start and have a look at goals and assists. Anthony managed to score 8 in the Eredivisie last season. Again, not really a very spectacular tally if you ask me. So unsurprisingly, Cody Gakpo had some better numbers. He scored 12, but even though that both players started around the same amount of games, Gakpo got subbed on 5 times more than Anthony, so he had a little bit more time to score some extra goals. So okay, he gets the benefit of the doubt. I think this is kind of similar, but we have to be realistic because Cody Gakpo edges Anthony in this part. Let's talk about assists now, and again, Gakpo edges Anthony. Gakpo assisted a whopping 13 times, while Anthony only managed to give 4 assists. Judging from these numbers, it's pretty clear who wins this round. Last season, both players weren't really crossing the ball that much, with both making crosses less than 2 times per game. However, Gakpo's success rate was way higher than Anthony's, with 66% over 33%. And I have to say, so far this season, I've seen seen Gakpo definitely improve in that department. He's giving way more crosses, way more good crosses, also contributing to his great assist numbers. In terms of defending, I think that this is a tough one. Anthony makes slightly more tackles than Gakpo, but Gakpo tends to track back a little bit more than Anthony. Well, last season that was. But Anthony did more higher up the field, as he was very important in the pressing, so definitely don't write off Anthony here. I personally think that this is a tough one, because last season PSV and Ajax both played two completely different systems, but from what I've seen, I think that Anthony edges over Gakpo here. So the verdict, I personally think both players are great. They do their defensive work, they're definitely a handful for defenders, but in terms of output, Cody Gakpo probably is the better choice ahead of Anthony. While still, both players haven't really had one good season where they had a lot of goal involvements. Well, Cody Gakpo is doing that right now, but that will be his first season where he finally shows that. So normally I would say this guy's good for around 10 to 12 goals per season in the Eredivisie. So naturally that tally would be lower in the Premier League. Again, his recent data shows otherwise, but that shouldn't be the standard now that he's only done this for a few months. So I don't know, this one is still tricky for me. And we just compared him to a Manchester United player. Well, in fact, Gakpo almost became a Manchester United player himself. The club was willing to pay the £40 million for the guy. He spoke with Erik ten Hag and reportedly the move was very close. For some reason it didn't happen, so Gakpo is still a PSV player, but that will probably change very soon. Because the player is linked, like I said, with Manchester United, Arsenal, Newcastle, Leeds and Southampton. In terms of Leeds and Southampton, both clubs reportedly are not in the race anymore. At Arsenal, I don't really think that this guy will be much better than Gabriel Martinelli. From what I've seen so far, I don't think that he's the better player. Martinelli clearly is ahead of Cody Gakpo at this point. At Manchester United, they're looking for a different option in left wing, so I can see that more than Arsenal in terms of the players they already have, in comparison to Gakpo. But on the other hand, Newcastle United would be a very interesting option for him. Because at Manchester United, we all know everybody and their mother will be talking about how this guy will fare. And let's say if this guy only gets like 3 goals in an entire season, if he joins for example next summer, you know, I don't think that they will have a lot of patience at Manchester United, especially because his price tag is reported only £25 million. So if he doesn't perform, it will not be that much of a loss and they can easily replace him. So it's basically a no-brainer to sign him, but subsequently also a no-brainer to get rid of him if he doesn't perform. Newcastle United, I think, would be a better option actually, because the pressure will just be way lower. He will probably get a little bit more time, and as we all know, the narrative with Manchester United is completely different. They always need to do better than they're currently doing. They need to get Champions League football, and then still actually it really isn't enough. Well, at Newcastle they're building something, so everything higher than like 7th or 6th would already be great for the club. And the fact that they're building something right now doesn't put that much pressure on the players, on the club itself. So I personally think that that would be way better for Gakpo to adjust to a higher level, to the Premier League, in order to further develop his game. And then, you know what, he can always still make the transfer to a club like Manchester United if he actually turns out to be good in the Premier League. But funny enough, all the clubs linked with this guy are in the Premier League. I haven't seen a single rumor of a club in Spain, Italy, Germany. All of the clubs linked with this guy are actually from the Premier League. So naturally you would ask yourself, does the Premier League actually suit Gakpo? In terms of physicality, this guy would fit in perfectly. Like I said, he's 6'2", he's strong. So I don't really think that that would be the issue there. But again, I don't think that this guy will fit in at any club. And right now I'm not talking about ability, I'm just talking about the system that he will play in. Because even though Cody Gakpo also does his defensive work, his qualities clearly lie in the attacking part of the game. So playing for a club like Southampton or Leeds, who cannot be the dominant team in every single game they play, more often than not, they're actually not the dominant team in the game that they're playing in the Premier League. So I personally think that the qualities of Cody Gakpo will actually not be used very much if he actually plays for a club like Southampton or Leeds. So I don't think that that will be best for him. So you should probably look at the dominant teams in the Premier League, because he's playing for PSV right now. He can show his attacking qualities, that's clearly his best asset. But in my opinion, I don't really think that this guy has the level to play for the big clubs in the Premier League. For example, let's have a look at Tottenham. This guy is not better than Son, way off. Like I said, he's not better than Martinelli either. Manchester City, I'm not even going to talk about that. That is just out of the question, 100%, no way. This guy also clearly isn't better than Sterling at Chelsea. And at Manchester United, yeah sure, I still think that Rashford is a great player. He clearly has his ups and downs, but already he had one great season in the Premier League. So I still think that he's a very decent Premier League player. And like I said, he showed it. Cody Gakpo only showed it for a few weeks in the Eredivisie. So strangely enough, He isn't good enough for the top club, but every other single club in the Premier League wouldn't work either due to the system and the playing style that they have. So Newcastle actually is the option in between that in my opinion could actually work for him. It's a club on the rise, they're spending some money, they're building something. Currently they're in the top 4, but in the next couple of years these guys could become a mainstay for the top spots in the Premier League. The great thing here, both the club and Cody Gakpo can improve and grow to become a top club in the league while not having to deal with the expectations immediately. And it would be great for Newcastle too, because this guy can also play in a different position. For the Netherlands he played as a center attacking mid. He actually played a very good game against Belgium there. So even though he hasn't really played there a lot, I personally see that happening. It would work, to be fair. Many people say he can also play as a striker, but I don't really think so. This guy should be the creative brain, and as a striker he would be more a target man, and I don't think his finishing is that good yet to just be a main striker. Just be an out and out number 9, I don't see that happening. So that brings us to my opinion. Like I said, I'm not fully convinced on Cody Gakpo. He had a few decent years, but we've seen so many players in the Eredivisie move to different competitions to the Premier League. The likes of Ziyech, Donny van de Beek, Alfonso Alves if we go way back in time. But there have been so many players that did amazing numbers and still failed abroad. Of course you have the exceptions like the likes of Luis Suarez, but we do have to remember that when this guy was playing for Ajax in the Eredivisie, he was clearly the best player in the entire league by far. So at least you should be by far the best player in the league in order to have a little bit of a chance, and then still, it's not immediately said that you can boss it in the Premier League. And so far, Cody Gakpo isn't that guy yet. I have to say that so far this season, he's finally stepping up. Again, the amount of goal involvements this season has been very good, but you also have to keep in mind that this has only been happening for a few weeks. But he might not even finish the season with PSV in the Eredivisie, because he could actually leave as soon as January with a reported price tag of only £25 million. And in all fairness, this should be a no-brainer for every single Premier League team. It's a very low fee, it's a guy with high potential, and if he fails, it's not that much of a problem. 25 million these days is nothing for a Premier League team anymore. But the main question is, will he actually succeed in the Premier League? Like I said, right now, my verdict would actually be no. Because of the stuff I named before, he hasn't really showed it over a longer amount of time. He tends to disappear in big games. And again, we keep getting back to this point. Yes, he has been great this season, but again, only a couple of weeks. As it stands right now, there's not enough ground to say that this guy would definitely be a success in the Premier League. He's doing really well this season, and I hope that he can actually keep that up. So my verdict would be stay at PSV for this entire season. Show that you can do it over a longer period of time. Go to the World Cup, have a good tournament, and then don't go to the likes of Manchester United and Arsenal. It will just not be a success. Like I said, my opinion would be go to Newcastle. It would be the perfect option for him. But for now, we have to wait and see what will happen with Cody Gakpo. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below, where do you see this guy and will he actually be able to make it in the Premier League? Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new to the channel, click my videos on the end screen right now, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.